that I think happens a lot for founders and entrepreneurs is that they merge their identity with the enterprise, with the company.
Mm-hmm.
And companies naturally ride this roller coaster of an experience. Companies go up, companies go down, the experience, right? One day we've got a customer, yay. The next day the customer returns the product, And what happens is when we merge our sense of self with the company, then emotionally we end up riding that roller coaster. And that can lead to burnout.
Jerry, pleasure to see you. Pleasure to meet you after, I think, 3 years when we met for the first time. My name is Tomasz Swoboda. I run Inovo, which is a venture fund focused on Poland and Central Europe and building international companies from here. We met in 2017 on the VC bootcamp organized by you in Boulder by Reboot. This was a great experience for myself, and I recommend it to everyone. You're a professional coach. You help founders. You are also, as far as I understand, ex-VC. Can you start by telling us a couple of words about yourself, like what you do, why you do it, who you are?
Sure. First of all, it's wonderful to see you again. It's been a long time, and it does feel like just yesterday. So it's very, very nice. And I remember when you came to the camp, if I remember correctly, you sat almost one or two seats to my left pretty much all the time. So I do remember.
True that.
A thing or two about myself. I think the thing that's important to remember is that you're right. I used to be a venture capitalist, and when I was in my 30s, my late 30s, I walked away from that business. And I walked away from that business because I was really depressed.
Mm-hmm.
And I was struggling because the way I was living my life did not map. The inner part of me was out of alignment with the outer part of me. And so on the one hand, I was incredibly successful, certainly by any standards I came in to that field with. And then I was just miserable. And so one way to think about what I do today, which is to really help people find that alignment, especially as it relates to their career, is what I'm trying to do is go back in time and take care of the 38-year-old version of me. And so in many ways, what I do is I help folks who have power, folks who are in leadership positions, lead well by learning to be their best selves.
I would say that's impressive.
Oh, thank you.
So can we are living in the coronavirus world, so to say. Can you say a couple of words what problems founders face today or in general, but especially today? Yeah, like what are the problems you discuss with founders?
Yeah, and I think everyone's going to have the same sorts of reactions, so I won't be sharing anything that's news to people, except perhaps how universal it is. A few weeks back, I've been doing a lot of online gatherings. I did one just before this call, I'll do one just afterwards. Mm-hmm. A few weeks back, I did a call with about 50 entrepreneurs from Mumbai in India. I've spoken to groups of entrepreneurs throughout the United States, in different countries, and pretty much everyone's having a very, very similar experience.
Mm-hmm.
And the struggles really fall into two categories: fears for their own safety and the safety of those they love, and then economic fears, economic insecurity. And so if you think about founders, for a moment. For many people, they're still in lockdown. They're still in a work from home model, which for some is not that disruptive because they've already been doing it. We talked a little bit about that before. But what's happening is they are simultaneously trying to take care of children who are not going to school or parents who are not obeying social distancing rules, or figuring out how are they going to get groceries, to not being able to sleep at night, to coupled with in exactly the same time period, trying to perhaps do fundraising or either having to lay off employees or think that they might be laying off. They need to lay off employees. And so you put all this together and what is normally, and we've talked about this before at the boot camp, what is normally an incredibly challenging experience, the roller coaster ride of entrepreneurship, is actually exacerbated now in ways that really stretch the capacity of people to hold on to themselves. So, and I'll bet that anybody who's listening to this conversation will recognize themselves in parts of what I've just said.
As you said, people used to work from home before. They had laptops, so they just moved home, started working. There's obviously this challenge with health, family, etc. But in general, I would say it worked. How do you think? But the thing I consider challenging is that you have a big group of people, the team, which used to work together. You created a kind of culture. People were, speaking in the office, etc. And how do you think? How do you maintain the team spirit, the culture? How do you build the culture if the company remains to work remotely? How does it influence the culture, and also how to work on the culture, on the relations with other people? This is a bit more challenging, right?
It's very challenging. It's very challenging. I won't make light of it. Many organizations have a culture of lots of energetic sharing with each other. If you think about, you can even visualize, remember back when we'd walk into an office and there would be all these open desks and people would be kind of humming along and talking with one another, and then they're off in the corner and people gathered around a dry erase board. And the feeling is that may be lost. I get that. And so there are things that one can do, but they're an adaptation. They're not a substitute. Right. And I am grateful that we have a strong enough internet backbone that so much of collaboration can now be online in some virtual capacity. This is an odd analogy, but I'll make it anyway. People are passing away every single day. It's part of the human experience. And one of the things we can't do is gather at funerals. I mean, just think about people who are in hospice. Think about someone who's had non-COVID related health care. And, my nephew and his wife had a baby. And normally my sister would fly from New York to Seattle to see them. I would fly up because I'm particularly close to them. You can't do that.
Yeah.
And, video chat, Zoom is a poor substitute for that. But so what do we do? Do we just give up? Of course not. We reach out. We do what we can to connect and to stay connected. Okay. And we hold on to the notion that this will change, that this too will pass. In my book, which is not yet available in Poland, I talk about a bit of wisdom that my therapist used to say to me all the time. I worked with her for 25 years. Amazing. And I would come in and things would be great. And she would say, or things would be terrible. And she would say, this too shall pass. And I would come in and I would say, things are great. And she'd say, this too shall pass. And the point was that all things fall apart all the time. All things are changing all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And resilience is the capacity to be with the fact that things are changing all the time and that we have to adapt. And so to your question, I think what we do is we build culture, we build communication, we build our means of getting together to reinforce culture.
You mentioned your book. It's called The Leadership and the Art of Growing Up. Mm. So can you comment, what does it mean to grow up? How do you see growing up?
Sure. So the basic premise of the book is that leadership is a really difficult and challenging task.
Mm-hmm.
And like all difficult and challenging tasks, we can either lean into it or we can lean away from it. We can either double down and try hard or we can move away from it. By leaning into it and trying hard, we can use those challenges to complete the process of becoming a better human ourselves. Because one of the fundamental beliefs is that better humans make better leaders.
Mm-hmm.
I liken that to being an adult. And I don't mean chronologically. I don't mean by time. I mean a fully formed, fully fledged, capable adult that's resilient and caring and kind and thoughtful and able to self-manage even in difficult times. And so the point is that leadership can be the path by which we grow up and become the person we were born to be. You've been to the boot camp. You recall that in the boot camp, one of the things that we challenge people to do is to look at their internal belief systems.
Yes.
And how that shapes their current, how they view the world. Is the world a mean place? Is the world a challenging place? Or is the world a place of opportunity? That's a belief system that is typically formed when we're children. And then we get stuck. And so the book shares a lot of personal stories from my life, and it also shares stories anonymized from the lives of my clients.
Okay. I just wanted to say that it is available in Poland. Like you can read it on or listen it on Audible.
Oh, okay.
The problems you mentioned, they are the same for all people, like founders, non-founders. Mm. Do you think founders in general, they face the same problems as other people, or they are, different kind of people or different material?
I think the challenges that they face are very, very similar. I think that there are aspects of entrepreneurs' personalities or the entrepreneurial mindset that make those challenges a little different. One of the things that I think happens a lot for founders and entrepreneurs is that they merge their identity with the enterprise, with the company.
Mm-hmm.
And companies naturally ride this roller coaster of an experience. Companies go up, companies go down, the experience, right? One day we've got a customer, yay. The next day the customer returns the product, And what happens is when we merge our sense of self with the company, then emotionally we end up riding that roller coaster. And that can lead to burnout. That can lead to a particular kind of challenges.
Does it mean you think that the roller coaster, which I would say is a bit obvious for me, or I see it often, comes from the merging with the company, not from the entrepreneur's personality?
Well, I think it's the entrepreneur's personality that causes them to merge with the company.
Okay.
Right. We don't become entrepreneurs because we're we're super satisfied with just getting a 9-to-5 job that's kind of boring and we don't care. That's not who entrepreneurs are, right? How many entrepreneurs do you know refer to their company as their baby? Many, right? They're not their babies, but it feels like it. Or how many entrepreneurs you know have trouble in their marriages because their significant other says, you're working all the time. I never see you. Right?
So how do the entrepreneurs in Mumbai deal with it? Like,
exactly the same challenge. It's exactly the same issue. This is why I think it's part of that entrepreneurial mindset, is that there's no difference. When you throw yourself into the opportunity that you see, right? How is an entrepreneur organized? They see the world as a set of problems that need to be fixed. And they think that the world presents constantly this opportunity to create something new, something magical. That's what's great about them. Problem is that when they're constantly seeing the world like that, then their capacity to actually connect with their family or connect with friends is minimized. And then they spend more and more of that psychic energy on the work until the point where it takes over. And then they get lost.
I would say also with, you have work, as you said, work, yourself, family, so many, so to say, things. So what are you telling to founders when they say, and when they come to you and say, it's difficult for me to combine work and all the other things?
Well, I think the most important first step is to recognize what's going on. Right? You can't solve a problem that you don't see. And to understand that they may be feeling terrible, not because they are terrible, but because of the choices that they have made. And once you realize that the way you relate to your company is a choice, you then get to realize that you can change the way you relate to the company. See, that can be radically shocking to people because they just presume it's what happens to everybody. Well, not really. It's a choice. Now, is it difficult to change that? Absolutely. But it's not impossible.
Okay.
And it takes an effort to make that happen.
And so after this, let's say the entrepreneurs you work with, they come back home, think about it, and then I would assume, change something in their behavior. Or
I wish it was that simple. It takes time. It takes effort. It's just like learning a skill. A new habit gets formed. It takes 30 days for a new habit to be formed. It takes, continuous practice. It takes time to sort of sort all this through.
Okay.
And just be gentle with yourselves. If those who are listening say, this feels resonant with me and I want to start to change things, be gentle, be patient.
Okay.
Be focused, but don't beat yourself up when you fail. That's normal.
Let's take this path. Like, if somebody listening to it thinks this resonates with me and I want to change, obviously I would say he should start with your book, but what else? Right. What else? And the podcast you have on your homepage, which are great, I have to say. But what else can they do? Or assuming there is no Reboot and Jerry Colonna, would you say you should go to psychoanalyst or psychologist, psychotherapist?
Well, a therapist could be very, very helpful, but it's not always necessary. Here's the way to think about it.
Okay.
If we think back to the basic message, the way for us to grow up is actually to do our inner work. do the work that's inside of ourselves. And that in that growing up process, we will lead better, but we'll also feel better about our leading. Well, that's a double win. Now, I'm going to give you a triple win. If we think about the people who are handling this crazy time best, it's those who have an inner sense of core, a core sense of self. They know how to deal with solitude. They know how to deal with uncertainty. They know how to deal with fear. One of my teachers likens it to sitting like a mountain in a hurricane. Okay, how do you develop that skill? You have to actually look inward.
And how do you do that?
Conversations with people, journaling, perhaps sitting meditation, perhaps walking meditation. The way you don't do it is by constantly comparing yourself to other people.
Okay.
There are free courses that we offer that are available to people, and they're not just a podcast. There's more to it. Reading books can be very helpful. We made you journal when you were at the boot camp. We made you do exercises where, if you remember, going on a walk with a friend and just walking. Simple tools that are available to everybody. No cost.
Okay. So we are more or less in time. Is there anything else you would like to say or communicate to the founders, or leave a message at the end of our discussion, which is very interesting?
Well, what I would say is this. I've only been to Poland once. I visited Warsaw and Krakow. I actually took the train from Warsaw to Krakow, which was one of my most pleasant memories. I miss you guys. What you're doing is really important there. You're about building an economy that's independent of the old ways. And I know you're scared. Don't forget that there are others around the world who are exactly in the same place that you are. And you're not alone. I look forward to coming back to Poland someday.
You are invited, so we have to think how to do it.
Thank you.
Jerry, thank you very much. It was very, very interesting. And looking forward, to anything else we could do together, so to say. Like, let's stay in touch and let me think how we can do that.
It would be my pleasure.